Let's now move to the practice of fiction writing in overall creative writing. Fiction may be seen as a kind of literature which is usually written in the form of prose, especially novels which describe some imaginary event and talk about some characters. Some of the key elements of fiction writing involves plot, story, characters, structure, setting, issues, narrative point, and dialogues, language, etc. There are so many. Let's look at some of the important factors which constitute the writing of fiction. Character, these are the people or some animals or creatures. These are the living objects within the plot of a novel or fiction, which actually make the story live. They actually make the story run and work for the entertainment of the reader. They provide a human element which allows readers to imagine themselves inside the stories, because readers usually sympathize or empathize with these characters and they feel themselves involved in the story because of these characters. That's why John Gardner believes that characters are actually the heart and mind of the story. They actually make it live in the minds and hearts of the people who read it. Plot is the primary thread of the story. It consists of various links that make a story, and these are the threads which make or create the actions of the characters, which are actually the soul of any fiction. The plot may be driven by some inciting incident or some event, or by some ordinary world reality, and a writer revolves his story based on this plot. Plot, specifically speaking, is not a story. Rather, it's a series of events a writer chooses to include in his fiction. He devises these various elements and then builds a story based on them. Scenes are often perceived beforehand by the writer. They may also be seen as the location where characters move or talk or work or lead their action. And we can see the movement of characters and the stories involved in a piece of fiction within these locations, right? Some form and structure are also important, and they are interchangeable. They are strongly connected with each other in any piece of fiction writing, so we cannot separate them. Form and structure help a writer take some decisions, like where to locate his story and when, what should be the time span of the story, and how to position the conflicts and their resolution in the story. There are so many important factors which are based on the form and overall structure of the story. Then issues, every story has problems, and characters work to resolve those problems, and that makes a story go in any form of fiction. So issues are very important elements of fiction writing, and they lead to some conclusion or final agreement. Narrative viewpoint is important, and in some kind of fiction it is more important. It is based on who is telling the story. In some novels or pieces of fiction, the narrator is actually one of the characters of the novel. And in other pieces of fiction writing, this could be an anonymous narrator who is not within the story, but he is actually telling the story. And this could be any, as I said, anonymous voice in the abstract and coming from a distance. Narrator voice consists of those unique characteristics which make a narrator different from other narrators of the same genre. Actions are those things which characters do, and dialogues are those things which characters say while performing various actions. So they are considered to be the soul of any piece of fiction. Language and style or the genre are also important. Usually our decisions of writing and choice of words are influenced by our possible readers. We tap into certain genre because of the expectations of our readers, and we choose certain kind of language because of the same expectations. And we can see, for example, we use small words if we are writing for the small children. We're writing stories for the children, we will use small, simple vocabulary. And if we're writing for adult audience, for example, or grown-up people, we may choose difficult vocabularies, or we may set some complex scenes as well. So a lot of our choices about genre and style are dependent on our future readers or future audience.